Have you ever felt emotionally exhausted, trying to make everyone understand you? Trying to explain your choices, your silence, your boundaries, your personality, and your pain, only to realize that some people will still judge you no matter what you say. Buddhism teaches that one of the greatest forms of suffering is constantly seeking validation from people who were never truly trying to understand you in the first place. The more you explain yourself to everyone, the more peace you lose. The more you chase approval, the more emotionally dependent you become on other people's opinions. But what if true happiness begins the moment you stop caring who understands you? What if freedom begins when you stop defending your life to the world? In this video, you will learn 7 powerful Buddhist lessons that will help you stop over-explaining yourself, detach from people's opinions, and finally protect your inner peace like never before. 1. Over-explaining is often fear disguised as communication. Many people believe they over-explain because they are being respectful, honest, or caring. But in reality, over-explaining often comes from fear. Fear of rejection, fear of criticism, fear of conflict, fear of disappointing people, fear of being misunderstood or judged unfairly. When you constantly explain yourself, you are usually searching for emotional approval from others. You want people to agree with your choices so you can feel accepted and emotionally safe. You explain why you need space, why you changed, why you said no, or why you are focusing on yourself. Slowly, without realizing it, you begin living your life trying to make everyone comfortable, except yourself. Buddhism teaches that true peace cannot exist when your happiness depends on other people approving your decisions. Because no matter how much you explain yourself, some people will still misunderstand you. Some people will still judge you according to their own mindset and emotions. A peaceful person understands that they do not need to defend every choice they make. They stop feeling guilty for protecting their peace. They stop asking permission to live their own life. Many people become emotionally exhausted because they spend years trying to avoid criticism and keep everyone happy. But the more emotionally secure you become, the less you feel the need to explain yourself to everyone around you. And that is when real happiness begins to grow. 2. People judge based on their own mind. Buddhism teaches that people do not always see you for who you truly are. Most people judge others based on their own emotions, experiences, insecurities, and mindset. This means their opinions often reveal more about them than about you. An insecure person may feel threatened by your confidence. A negative person may criticize your happiness. A manipulative person may become angry when you create boundaries. Someone filled with anger may see disrespect even where there is none. This is why trying to control how everyone sees you becomes emotionally exhausting. No matter how kind or honest you are, some people will still misunderstand you because they are viewing you through the lens of their own mind. Many people suffer because they constantly overthink other people's opinions. They try to explain themselves perfectly, so nobody judges them unfairly. But Buddhism teaches that attachment to reputation creates suffering because you cannot fully control how people think about you. A peaceful person understands this deeply. They focus more on their character than on other people's opinions. They stop wasting emotional energy trying to manage every misunderstanding. The moment you realize that not every judgment deserves your attention, your mind becomes lighter. You stop reacting emotionally to every criticism, and slowly you begin protecting your peace instead of chasing approval. 3. Silence protects your energy. Buddhism teaches that silence is not weakness. Silence is wisdom. Silence is emotional control. And sometimes, Silence is the most powerful way to protect your peace. Many people believe they must respond to every opinion, defend themselves against every misunderstanding, and explain themselves every time someone judges them unfairly. But this constant emotional reacting slowly drains the mind and fills life with unnecessary stress. Think about how much energy people waste arguing with others who already decided not to understand them. They try to correct every false assumption. They try to prove their intentions to people who only want to criticize them. They spend hours overthinking conversations, replaying arguments in their mind, and trying to make everyone see their side. But Buddhism teaches that not every battle deserves your energy. Some people are not looking for understanding. They are looking for conflict. Some people ask questions not because they care about your truth, but because they want control, drama, or emotional reactions from you. And the more you explain yourself to these people, the more emotionally exhausted you become. A peaceful person learns when to speak and when to remain silent. They understand that protecting their inner peace is more important than winning every argument. They no longer feel the need to defend every choice they make or react to every opinion they hear. Silence becomes powerful when you realize that your peace is too valuable to be disturbed by every misunderstanding. Sometimes the strongest response is no response at all. Not because you are weak, but because you are emotionally mature enough to know that not every person deserves access to your energy. Buddhism teaches that suffering grows when the mind becomes reactive. The more emotionally attached you are to every criticism, every judgment, and every misunderstanding, the more restless your mind becomes. But when you stop reacting to everything, your mind slowly becomes calmer and lighter. You stop wasting energy trying to control people's opinions. You stop defending yourself to those committed to misunderstanding you. You stop carrying emotional anger from unnecessary conflicts. And slowly, silence becomes your protection. It protects your energy from negativity. It protects your peace from emotional chaos. It protects your mind from stress that never truly mattered. A wise person understands that peace is more valuable than proving a point to people who were never willing to listen in the first place. 4. Your life becomes peaceful when you stop performing for others. Many people spend their entire life performing for others without even realizing it. They change the way they speak, act, dress, think, and live just to gain acceptance from the people around them. They become emotionally controlled by opinions, approval, validation, and the fear of being judged. Slowly, they stop living as their true self and begin living as the version of themselves that keeps other people comfortable. Buddhism teaches that this attachment to approval creates deep inner suffering, because when your happiness depends on how people see you, your peace becomes fragile. Your mood changes depending on praise or criticism. One compliment makes you feel worthy, and one negative opinion makes you doubt yourself. This creates a restless mind that is constantly searching for validation from the outside world. Many people pretend to be happy when they are emotionally exhausted. They pretend to agree with everyone to avoid conflict. They hide their real personality because they fear rejection. They silence their truth because they want to fit in. They say yes when they want to say no. They tolerate disrespect because they are afraid of losing people. But the more you perform for others, the more disconnected you become from yourself. Deep inside, your soul becomes tired because it knows you are abandoning your truth just to be accepted. You begin living according to society's expectations instead of according to your own inner peace. And eventually, this creates emotional emptiness, because no amount of approval can heal the pain of constantly betraying yourself. Buddhism teaches that true peace begins when you stop trying to become someone everyone approves of. Real happiness begins when you stop shaping your entire life around other people's opinions. You realize that no matter how perfect you try to be, some people will still criticize you, misunderstand you, or dislike you. And once you fully accept this truth, something inside you becomes free. You stop trying so hard to impress everyone. You stop explaining your every decision. You stop shrinking yourself to make insecure people comfortable. You stop pretending to agree with things that do not align with your soul. You stop feeling guilty for choosing peace over approval. A peaceful person understands that authenticity is more important than validation. They no longer waste emotional energy trying to maintain an image for the world. Instead, they focus on building a calm and honest relationship with themselves. This does not mean becoming careless or disrespectful. Buddhism does not teach selfishness. It teaches balance. It teaches living honestly without becoming emotionally dependent on applause from others. The truth is, the more authentic you become, the fewer people will fully understand you. Some people only like the version of you that constantly pleased them. Some people become uncomfortable when you stop seeking their approval because your confidence reminds them of their own insecurity. But Buddhism teaches that peace is more valuable than being liked by everyone. Many people spend their whole life emotionally exhausted because they are trying to manage how everyone sees them. They overthink every action, every word, and every choice because they are afraid of judgment. But this constant performance slowly destroys inner peace. A calm mind does not constantly seek permission to exist. A calm mind does not beg for acceptance. A calm mind understands that self-respect is more important than constant approval. The moment you stop performing for others, life becomes lighter. Your mind becomes quieter. You stop carrying the pressure of trying to be perfect for everyone around you. And for the first time, you begin living in a way that feels peaceful to your soul instead of impressive to the world. 5. Protecting your peace will disappoint some people. One of the hardest truths people must accept in life is that the moment you start protecting your peace, some people will become uncomfortable. Not everyone will celebrate your growth. Not everyone will support your boundaries. Not everyone will understand the new version of you that no longer tolerates emotional chaos, disrespect, manipulation, or constant negativity. Buddhism teaches that suffering often grows when people sacrifice their inner peace just to keep others happy. Many people spend years saying yes when they want to say no. They tolerate behavior that hurts them emotionally because they are afraid of conflict, rejection, or disappointing people they care about. Slowly, they become emotionally exhausted because they are constantly carrying other people's emotions while ignoring their own. The truth is, some people only liked you when you had no boundaries. They liked the version of you that always explained yourself, always apologized, always stayed available, and always sacrificed your own needs to make them comfortable. But the moment you begin protecting your energy, things start to change. People who benefited from your emotional weakness may suddenly call you selfish. People who controlled you emotionally may become angry when you stop reacting the same way. People who were used to unlimited access to your time and energy may become frustrated when you finally choose yourself. And this is where many people become trapped. They begin feeling guilty for protecting their peace. They think setting boundaries makes them a bad person. They fear disappointing others, so they continue abandoning themselves emotionally just to avoid criticism. But Buddhism teaches that peace cannot grow inside a life filled with constant emotional pressure. You cannot heal while continuously betraying your own needs. You cannot build a calm mind while allowing toxic energy to control your emotions every single day. A peaceful person understands that protecting their mental and emotional well-being is not selfish, it is necessary. This does not mean becoming cold-hearted or careless toward others. Buddhism teaches compassion, but it also teaches wisdom. Compassion does not mean destroying your own peace to rescue everyone else emotionally. Wisdom means understanding when certain people, situations, or environments are slowly draining your spirit. Many people are emotionally exhausted, not because life is always difficult, but because they are constantly trying to manage everyone else's feelings while ignoring their own. They over-explain themselves to avoid upsetting people. They suppress their truth to keep relationships comfortable. They tolerate disrespect because they fear losing connection. But the more you ignore your own peace, the heavier your life becomes. Growth requires emotional courage. Sometimes healing means disappointing people who were comfortable with the old version of you. Sometimes growth means becoming less available to negativity. Sometimes peace requires distance from people who constantly bring emotional chaos into your life. And not everyone will understand that. Some people may misunderstand your silence. Some may judge your boundaries. Some may accuse you of changing. But Buddhism teaches that change is part of awakening. A person who truly begins valuing their peace naturally becomes more selective with where they invest their emotional energy. The moment you stop feeling guilty for protecting your peace, your life begins to feel lighter. Your mind becomes calmer because you are no longer constantly carrying emotional pressure from everyone around you. You stop over-explaining yourself. You stop begging people to understand your boundaries. You stop sacrificing your mental health just to avoid disappointing others. And slowly, you begin realizing something powerful. The people who truly care about you will not require you to destroy your peace in order to keep them comfortable. Real happiness begins when you stop abandoning yourself for approval and start building a life that feels peaceful to your soul. 6. Freedom begins when you let people think whatever they want. One of the most powerful and difficult lessons in Buddhism is learning to let people think whatever they want about you. Most people spend their entire lives emotionally controlled by other people's opinions. They constantly worry about what others think, how they are being judged, and whether people approve of their choices. Because of this, they never truly feel free. Their happiness rises and falls depending on praise, validation, criticism, or rejection. Buddhism teaches that this attachment to other people's opinions creates endless suffering inside the mind. Because no matter how carefully you live, no matter how kind you are, and no matter how much you explain yourself, you still cannot control how people choose to see you. Some people will misunderstand your silence and think you are rude. Some people will judge your boundaries because they benefited from your lack of them. Some people will dislike your growth because it reminds them of their own lack of growth. And some people will simply create false stories about you because their mind is filled with negativity, insecurity, jealousy, or emotional pain. The painful truth is that people often see you through the lens of their own mind, not through reality. This is why trying to control everyone's opinion becomes emotionally exhausting. You begin overthinking every word you say. You become afraid to disappoint people. You constantly explain your choices, hoping others will finally understand you. Slowly, your life stops belonging to you and starts belonging to the opinions of others. Many people are mentally trapped because they are addicted to approval. They feel peaceful only when they are praised. They feel valuable only when they are accepted. And the moment someone criticizes them, misunderstands them, or rejects them, their emotional state collapses. But Buddhism teaches that true peace begins when your self-worth no longer depends on external validation. A peaceful person understands that they cannot control every opinion, every misunderstanding, or every judgment. Instead of exhausting themselves trying to manage everyone's perception, they focus on protecting their own mind and character. They stop explaining themselves unnecessarily. They stop defending every decision they make. They stop chasing emotional acceptance from people who are committed to misunderstanding them. And most importantly, they stop allowing criticism to control their inner peace. This does not mean becoming careless about your actions or disrespectful toward others. Buddhism teaches self-awareness and compassion, but it also teaches emotional detachment from things you cannot control. And one of the biggest things you cannot control is how every person chooses to think about you. The moment you truly accept this, life becomes lighter. You stop fearing judgment. You stop replaying conversations in your mind all night. You stop trying to prove your worth to people who already decided not to value you. You stop carrying emotional stress over opinions that change every day. And slowly, your mind becomes calmer because you are no longer emotionally chained to the thoughts of others. Many people never experience real peace because they spend their whole life performing for approval. They become afraid to be themselves because they fear criticism. They silence their truth because they want to fit in. They make decisions based on acceptance instead of inner peace. But Buddhism teaches that freedom begins when you stop needing everyone to agree with your life. You realize that not everyone will understand your path. Not everyone will support your growth. Not everyone will appreciate your boundaries. And not everyone will see your heart clearly. But none of this has to destroy your peace anymore. A wise person understands that happiness grows when you stop trying to control the minds of others and finally focus on mastering your own mind instead. Because the happiest people are not the people loved or understood by everyone. The happiest people are the ones who no longer need to be. 7. Real happiness begins when you finally accept yourself. One of the deepest teachings in Buddhism is that real happiness cannot grow inside a mind that is constantly rejecting itself. Many people spend their entire life searching for acceptance from the outside world because deep inside they have not fully accepted themselves. They depend on validation, praise, attention and approval from others because they believe their worth depends on how people see them. This is why criticism hurts them so deeply. This is why rejection feels unbearable. This is why misunderstanding creates emotional suffering, because when you do not fully accept yourself, you begin depending on other people to tell you who you are. Their opinions become your identity. Their approval becomes your confidence. Their rejection becomes your pain. But Buddhism teaches that peace begins the moment you stop looking outside yourself for the value that already exists within you. Many people are emotionally exhausted because they spend years trying to become good enough for everyone around them. They try to fit into expectations that were never truly meant for them. They hide parts of themselves to avoid judgment. They constantly compare their life, personality, appearance, and journey to others, and slowly they lose connection with their true self. They become strangers to their own soul because they are too busy trying to become someone the world will approve of. But no amount of approval can heal a person who secretly feels unworthy inside. This is why Buddhism teaches self-awareness and inner acceptance. A peaceful person understands that happiness grows when you stop fighting yourself, when you stop treating your flaws like proof that you are unlovable, when you stop believing you must be perfect to deserve peace. Real healing begins when you accept that you are human. You will make mistakes. You will disappoint some people. You will not always be understood. You will not always meet everyone's expectations. And that does not make you worthless. A calm mind understands that imperfection is part of life. Buddhism teaches that suffering grows when people constantly resist reality and try to create a perfect image of themselves for the world. But peace grows when you finally allow yourself to exist without constantly seeking validation. The more you accept yourself, the less desperate you become for approval from others. You stop over-explaining your choices. You stop changing your personality to fit in everywhere. You stop feeling emotionally destroyed by criticism. You stop begging people to see your worth, because deep inside you already know your value. This kind of inner peace changes everything. When you truly accept yourself, your happiness no longer depends on whether everyone likes you. You no longer feel the need to prove yourself constantly. You stop chasing emotional permission to live your life the way your soul wants. And this creates freedom, freedom from comparison, freedom from constant self-doubt, freedom from emotional dependence on other people's opinions. Buddhism teaches that the mind becomes peaceful when it stops fighting for approval and starts living with awareness, honesty, and self-respect. The truth is, not everyone will understand you in this life. Not everyone will appreciate your heart, your growth, or your journey. But once you fully accept yourself, you no longer need everyone else to. And maybe that is where true happiness finally begins. Not when the whole world accepts you, but when you finally accept yourself. 8. Your peace grows when you stop needing to be understood by everyone. One of the most freeing lessons Buddhism teaches is that peace begins when you stop needing everyone to understand you. Many people suffer emotionally because they constantly try to explain their heart, their choices, their personality, and their intentions to the world. They want everyone to see them correctly. They want everyone to approve of their path. They want everyone to understand why they changed, why they became distant, why they set boundaries, or why they chose a different life. But the painful truth is that no matter how honest you are, some people will still misunderstand you. Some people will judge you without knowing your story. Some people will criticize choices they were never emotionally mature enough to understand. Some people will create false versions of you in their mind because it is easier than seeing the truth. And Buddhism teaches that suffering begins the moment you become emotionally attached to changing their opinion. Many people spend years emotionally exhausted because they are trying to force understanding from people who have already decided not to understand them. They keep explaining themselves, hoping one day everyone will finally see their heart clearly. But the more they chase understanding, the more frustrated and emotionally drained they become. A peaceful person eventually realizes something powerful. Not everyone is meant to understand your journey. Some people can only understand you from the level of awareness they currently have. If someone is filled with ego, insecurity, jealousy, negativity, or emotional immaturity, they may never fully understand your peace, your growth, or your intentions. And that is not your burden to carry. Buddhism teaches emotional detachment from things you cannot control. And one of the biggest things you cannot control is how other people choose to see you. The moment you truly accept this, your mind becomes lighter. You stop over-explaining yourself constantly. You stop replaying conversations in your head all night. You stop feeling emotionally destroyed every time someone misunderstands you. You stop wasting energy trying to prove your goodness to people committed to misunderstanding you. And slowly, peace begins to enter your life. Many people lose themselves because they are too focused on controlling people's opinions. They shape their personality around approval. They hide parts of themselves to avoid criticism. They become emotionally dependent on being accepted everywhere they go. But Buddhism teaches that real peace comes from self-understanding, not universal understanding. A calm person understands themselves deeply enough that they no longer need constant validation from the outside world. They know their intentions, they know their heart, they know their truth. And because of this, they no longer feel the need to constantly defend themselves. This does not mean becoming cold or careless about others. It means becoming emotionally mature enough to understand that your peace is too valuable to be controlled by every opinion around you. The truth is, people's opinions change constantly. Someone may praise you today and criticize you tomorrow. Someone may support you when you are useful to them and judge you when you choose yourself. If your happiness depends on people fully understanding you, your peace will always remain unstable. But when you stop needing universal approval, something beautiful happens inside you. Your mind becomes quieter, your emotions become calmer, your confidence becomes stronger, and your happiness no longer depends on whether everyone agrees with your life. Buddhism teaches that freedom begins when you stop chasing acceptance from the world and start building peace within yourself instead. Because true happiness does not come from being understood by everyone. True happiness comes from finally understanding yourself and no longer abandoning your peace just to be accepted by others. A quiet mind is more powerful than a well-explained life. Many people believe they can finally find peace if they explain themselves perfectly enough. They think if they choose the right words, people will stop judging them. They think if they keep defending their intentions, everyone will finally understand their heart. But Buddhism teaches that peace does not come from constantly explaining yourself to the world. Peace comes from mastering your own mind. A person with a restless mind constantly seeks validation. They overthink every conversation. They replay situations in their head for hours. They feel anxious when someone misunderstands them. They become emotionally drained trying to control how people see them. But a calm mind works differently. A calm person understands that not every misunderstanding needs correction. Not every opinion deserves emotional attention. Not every criticism requires a defense. The more peaceful your mind becomes, the less desire you have to constantly prove yourself. Many people waste years trying to maintain an image in front of others. They carefully shape their words, personality, and behavior just to avoid judgment. They become emotionally exhausted because they are always trying to manage how everyone feels about them. But Buddhism teaches that attachment to image creates suffering, because no matter how carefully you explain yourself, people will still create their own opinions about you. Some people will misunderstand you because of their own pain. Some will judge you because of jealousy or insecurity. Some will criticize you simply because they cannot control you anymore. And if you try to emotionally fight every misunderstanding, your mind will never rest. A quiet mind understands something powerful. You do not need to attend every argument people invite you into. You do not need to defend every rumor, every judgment, or every false opinion. You do not need to exhaust yourself proving your goodness to people determined to misunderstand you. Real strength is not constantly reacting to everything around you. Real strength is emotional control. Buddhism teaches that suffering grows when the mind becomes attached to external noise. The more emotionally reactive you become, the more chaotic your inner world becomes. But when you stop feeding every opinion with your energy, your mind slowly becomes calmer. Think about how much emotional energy people lose every day trying to explain themselves. They explain why they changed. They explain why they need distance. They explain why they are focusing on themselves. They explain why they said no. They explain their boundaries, their emotions, their silence, and their choices, over and over again. And often, the people demanding explanations are not even trying to understand them sincerely. This is why a peaceful person becomes more selective with their energy. They stop speaking just to defend themselves. They stop arguing with people committed to misunderstanding them. They stop seeking emotional approval from everyone around them. And slowly, their life becomes quieter. Not because life suddenly becomes perfect, but because their mind is no longer constantly fighting for acceptance. A quiet mind is powerful because it is not easily controlled by praise or criticism. It does not emotionally collapse every time someone disagrees. It does not depend on validation to feel worthy. This kind of peace changes the way you live. You stop reacting impulsively. You stop chasing approval. You stop feeling guilty for protecting your boundaries. You stop carrying emotional stress over opinions you cannot control. And for the first time, you begin experiencing a deeper kind of happiness. The happiness that comes from inner stability instead of external validation. Buddhism teaches that the greatest form of freedom is mastering your own mind. Because once your peace no longer depends on how others see you, nobody can easily control your emotions anymore. And maybe that is the real goal. Not to live a perfectly explained life, but to live with a calm mind that no longer needs constant approval from the world. Your happiness begins to grow the moment you stop carrying the burden of making everyone understand you. Buddhism teaches that peace does not come from controlling people's opinions. Peace comes from letting go of attachment to them. Most people spend their lives emotionally exhausted because they are constantly trying to explain themselves, defend their choices, and gain approval from others. They fear judgment. They fear rejection. They fear being misunderstood. So they keep sacrificing their peace just to feel accepted. But no matter how much you explain yourself, some people will still misunderstand you. Some people will judge you without knowing your heart. Some people will create false opinions about you based on their own emotions, insecurities, and limitations. And Buddhism teaches that true freedom begins when you stop allowing these opinions to control your inner peace. The calmer your mind becomes, the less you feel the need to prove yourself to everyone around you. You stop over-explaining your choices. You stop seeking emotional permission to live your life. You stop chasing validation from people who cannot even fully understand themselves. Instead, you begin focusing on something far more important, protecting your peace. You begin understanding yourself more deeply. You become emotionally stronger. You become quieter inside. And slowly, your happiness stops depending on how the world sees you. A peaceful person understands that not everyone is meant to understand their journey. Some people will only understand the version of you that was easy to control, easy to please, or easy to manipulate. But growth changes you. Healing changes you. Self-respect changes you. And not everyone will like that. But Buddhism teaches that peace is more valuable than approval. Real happiness begins when you stop abandoning yourself just to be accepted by others. It begins when you stop fighting every misunderstanding and finally allow yourself to live honestly, calmly, and freely. Because in the end, the happiest people are not the ones understood by everyone. The happiest people are the ones who no longer need to be.